Hi there, welcome to today's video. Today is going to be a little chat. I have my tea here and I want to talk to you about the main themes that we'll be seeing in December 2022 and how you might see these come up in the month ahead. We're sitting now in the middle of November when I'm recording this, and you might already see during this time that some of these themes are coming up. And most specifically, the theme of the archetype of Sagittarius. We are almost in Sagittarius season, so you might already start to notice that you're getting a little bit more explorative, a little bit more adventurous. And the archetype of Sagittarius can sometimes get a bad connotation for this, that they only want to pursue fun stuff, that they don't want to settle down. Don't get a Sagittarius in a relationship because they're never going to be with you or something like that. But when we start to think about this sort of exploration that the archetype of Sagittarius loves to do, needs to do actually, we need to take a look at why Sagittarius needs this adventure. The reason is the Sagittarius is actually gathering inputs, gathering information in order to make sense of the world, in order to get a larger understanding about who they are, what the world is, what are we even doing on this earth. So unlike the more explorative, youthful, doing everything energy of Gemini, in the opposite spectrum, Sagittarius really has a more philosophical end goal. You can really think of somebody that's gathering all the data points before they make a decision. So you might find already that, like I said, you're feeling more explorative, more adventurous. At this time, Venus, the planet of love and beauty and pleasure, is also in Sagittarius. For example, you might find that usually you love to listen to music, but now, all of a sudden, you're quite interested by audiobooks. Halfway through the month, we're going to have to switch from the archetype of Sagittarius to the archetype of Capricorn, and specifically with the Sun and Venus. They're going to switch signs. When we begin to look at the archetype of Capricorn, some of the main misconceptions about Capricorn are they work super hard, they put their head down, they like to be on their own, they like to focus, and they really are worried about public recognition, about putting something out there in the world outside of themselves. And of course, this is true, this is a part of the archetype. But when we look again to that sort of end point, why is Capricorn doing this? Why are they working so hard? Why do they care so much about the way they put themselves out there? The reason is because the archetype of Capricorn is trying to align their inner world and their outer world. The archetype of Capricorn is about making sure what they're feeling on the inside, what they're thinking about, their values, their ideals are in line with what they talk about, how they spend their time, the way they show up in the world. Are they living up to those values? Do other people recognize and see that these values guide their life? So as we make this switch from Sagittarius to Capricorn through the middle of the month, you might naturally find that some of these explorations perhaps start to die down a bit and you become a little bit more reflective on them, thinking to reflect on what you learned and what does this mean and how does this change anything about you, who you are, and how you view the world. And more importantly, going a step further into Capricorn season, it's also about, you might find that you're suddenly also taking interest in this change of values, perhaps, that you experience, this change of the inner world due to that exploration. You might all of a sudden start asking yourself, does this align to my outside world? Does this align to what I'm talking about every day and who I talk to? Do my values align with how I behave and show up in the world? Do I spend time on the activities that actually matter to me? Are my daily actions aligned with the actual destiny that I want to leave in this world? These are all beautiful questions to be asking ourselves. It doesn't mean that we'll necessarily find all the answers at the end of Capricorn season at all. One of the nice aspects, or another nice thing happening in the sky at this moment, is that we have Neptune, the planet of transcendence, spirituality, imagination, is present in the archetype of Pisces. And Neptune is having a great time in Pisces. Neptune loves it there. When we start to think about this planet in Pisces, it's really showing us that in the month of December, we might be feeling a bit more idealistic, a bit more imaginative, perhaps a bit more spiritual during this time. This doesn't necessarily have to manifest as literal actions or literally what we're saying to people. It could more be on the side of the type of explorations that we're taking. Or perhaps that the sort of the understandings that we're gathering at the end of Sagittarius season, and of course throughout, the understandings we're gathering through this exploration, that they're not these sort of base level, shallow understandings like, oh, I thought I was a book lover. Turns out I'm a music lover. But rather, you might find that these types of understanding and reflections that you're having during this time are actually much more higher level. They're more about, like I said before, who you are as a person. What are actually your ideals? Perhaps, do you believe in life after death? How do you want to spend your time? Not just related to productivity or getting a raise at work, but more, do you want to spend your time? How do you spend your time? And is that in alignment with your destiny, with what you want to leave behind in this world? So in a way, these reflections during this time could be a lot more higher level and idealistic. Finally, I want to chat about the sort of opposing forces, the opposing archetypes of Gemini and Sagittarius. So during this time, we're going to have Mars going retrograde in Gemini, and we have Venus in Sagittarius, at least for the beginning of the month. These two energies are quite interesting. Mars, of course, is very much actionable, the god of war, instinct, survival. And Venus, on the opposite side, is much more on the receiving end, about beauty and pleasure and having a good time. And when we also look at these respective planets in Gemini and Sagittarius, you might start to see that there's this sort of action on pursuing things in the past that brought us a lot of joy. This sort of youthful pursuit, Mars in retrograde in Gemini. This pursuit of youthful activities. Perhaps you loved puzzling when you were younger. And during this very Sagittarius type of time, you sort of bring that back into your life again. On the other hand, with Venus and Sagittarius, you might find yourself a bit torn or a bit even treading the balance. I'm not sure if that's the expression. Going back and forth between just doing things because they bring you joy, doing things from the past, doing these sort of youthful things where, when you were a child, you were just pursuing things because you loved doing them, you were interested in them. And on the other hand, this side of you, this part of you that is also seeking for something greater. Venus and Sagittarius. This part of you that's almost about ideals, about achieving a sort of epitome of beauty, of pleasure. This sort of ideal of finding the best philosophy that is true to you, that aligns so purely with who you are. And I wouldn't say that one side or the other is better, but you might find during this time that you're sort of going back and forth between the two. And with each side, of course, there's positives and negatives. And I invite you during this time to just reflect on these two themes, to reflect on how each side feels for you and what you're learning along the process. So I'll stop my chat for December 2022 here. I really hope you enjoyed the video. I really hope some of these themes, some of these talks resonated with you. And I also just really hope you enjoy December. I think it's a really nice energy to explore, to learn new things, and also at the end to reflect and think about, in a more idealistic, high-level view, if what we know about ourselves is what others know about us too. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope to see you again soon.